This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
The Passing Lab is brought to you by our partner, Modern Football Technology, and their quarterback development platform, the same tool trusted by NFL coaches like Rob Everett of the Miami Dolphins, former UFL, XFL offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach A.J. Smith, and creator of the R4 system, Dubmatics. It's helping coaches make smarter decisions and build better quarterbacks rep by rep. If you're still choosing your quarterback based on gut feeling or raw stats, it's time to evolve. Modern Football Technology's quarterback development platform gives coaches real-time data from every rep, tracking timing, accuracy, and decision-making, and tying it all back to specific concepts and situations in your play data. It doesn't show you who performed, it shows you why, where they're improving, and what to coach next. That's why coaches like Rob Everett, A.J. Smith, and Dubmatics are using it to develop their quarterbacks with clarity and confidence. Modern Football Technology, clarity for coaches, confidence for quarterbacks. Learn more at modernfootball.com.
The rotation standpoint comes from, and anybody can look up hip-shoulder dissociation. Million drills out there. The old Jameis Winston clip of him running around and Dak Prescott doing that. That's what hip dissociation is. So if you get the base and the hip dissociation, now you're trying to learn how to rotate. We talk about some arm lag and things like that. We don't want arm drag. But at the end of the day, the hope is that your throwing elbow is even with your shoulder as you're rotating. So you want your base good. I got all my weight back. I'm rotating hard on my back foot. Got a really firm front side.
Welcome back to the Passing Lab with our host, Josh Herring. And today he's going to talk with Josh Thacker, who has made the move from high school coaching world to now having his own quarterback academy. Coach, tell us about our guest today, Josh Thacker.
Yeah, Josh is a longtime Alabama coordinator. He's well known, and he's now in the football consulting world, and he's running one QB academy in Alabama, which is working with all ages of quarterbacks, and he's doing a lot of good stuff there. So there's a lot of good quarterback mechanic talk in this one, as well as some X's and O's.
Let's listen to the conversation with Josh Herring and Josh Thacker on the Passing Lab.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to Carvana. Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
All right, time for another episode of the Passing Lab. This is going to be an awesome one. We've got Josh Thacker, consultant. He also runs One QB Academy, which is doing a great job working with quarterbacks in the state of Alabama, and I'm sure elsewhere as well if people want to make the drive. Experienced offensive coordinator, great offensive mind. I'm super excited to talk to him. Josh, appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you, brother.
So let people get to know you real quick. We got a whole lot of ball to talk, and I know that's what people want to hear, but they need to know about you and your background. Just kind of walk us through quickly, like your career, background, influences, that sort of stuff, so we can kind of get to know you as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into that, Josh has been so helpful to me. He has always answered every DM, anything I've ever asked him. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate that on your side, man. Thank you. got out of college, played a little college baseball, and got out and stayed in the football world. I was a position coach for about 5 or 6 years before I landed my first coordinator role at a little school called Leroy High School down in South Alabama. Left there. I was a head coach for 7 years between two schools, Pickens Academy and Morgan Academy in Central Alabama. Left Morgan Academy, became the co-OC at Prattville High School under Caleb Ross. Coach Ross took a job in the collegiate ranks, so we were all kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what our next move was going to be, and landed at Demopolis High School, where I had 2 great years, won 2 region championships, and did really well on the offensive side of the football. Granger Shook lured us over to Pike Road after that. And since then, we have went into the private side of business and doing a little bit of consulting, trying to help schools across the Southeast. And we've started One QB Academy, which really focuses on just throwing mechanics.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited to talk about the throwing mechanics piece. That's going to be awesome. And we'll get there. Like, I know some of the stuff that you do. For the listeners out there, let's just kind of talk pass game philosophy or overview or influence, just kind of how you see things. I know we've talked some about this. You have some good ideas and from a big picture standpoint, but kind of talk us through how you got there and kind of what your philosophy is and kind of overview of your pass scheme. And then we'll jump into like the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of some of your schemes.
Yeah. So first of all, the test for verticals. I'm not a 4 verts guy and wanted to have a way to push the ball down the field and not have to be necessarily coming off play action protection or 7-step drops, 5-step drops, anything like that. What we did was we fell into the, of course, just like everybody else, the air raid world. And then we were trying to transfer ourselves out of that. And we really settled on the browse world through a bunch of different channels. And we used the air raid quick game, the browse stuff, some of the stuff that Kiffin and those guys were doing in the early days, the wind seam and that sort of stuff. And of course, there's still Tony Franklin influences inside of the air raid and things like that. We really just settled on the air raid quick game, the browse system, and then eventually it goes into the RPO world. And that's just kind of where we settled into, and didn't like pure progressions for high school quarterbacks. Wasn't a fan of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you get dub stuff that comes up with the R4, which was eye-opening for a lot of quarterback coaches and OCs during that time. And he does a fantastic job. Really loved how Dan Gonzalez went through his scan stuff and his axe work and things like that. So it was just a real natural progression for us. If we're not going to be a heavy PA team, let's figure out a way to get the ball down the field. We just kind of settled on the browse world. With
being in the browse world, how, like, are you heavy wide splits? Like traditionally, was there a split variation, or did you kind of say, hey, look, we're going to sell out to this. We're going to have super wide splits. We're going to base everything we do off the wide splits. Kind of where were y'all philosophically when it came to formation?
So I'm a big 11 personnel wild guy. Inline tight ends certainly have their place in the world, but at the schools we were at, we either A, didn't have the guys, or when we did have the guys, we didn't have the receivers to complement it. It was a whole different world, doing different things, bouncing from 5A to 6A to 7A football in Alabama. We did start off with wide splits, and we figured out pretty quick. Sometimes we had the cats that could get it out there, and sometimes we didn't. Splits we really had to toy with back and forth, but through that, it teaches you a whole different avenue of the game when you get into the passing grid, lane 1, lane 2, and lane 3, and things like that. And you try to just simplify it as much as possible for everybody involved. And that's where we kind of landed.
Now, first of all, let's have the caveat, Josh, as we talk to these people, so I don't get myself blackballed, that we are, in a roundabout way, guys, we are talking about deep choice routes some. I'm going to ask some questions. You can send me the DMs and the hate emails about it. We're going to talk a little bit about this. It's not a true deep dive, but just bear with us. Don't have any black helicopters outside my house in Marietta. But my first question, all right, for you, the Occupy, the Berry route, whatever of the dozen things you want to call it, is that more of a live route for you, or you were talking about not liking the progressions? Were you more of a just straight, no, we are going to work this DC, pre-snap one side or the other, but I'm going to straight work this DC or else, which is kind of the way, I think that's what appeals to a lot of people about it initially.
So number 2 is live. First of all, all the way through the hard deck. And we probably do DC a little bit different than some folks do, I guess. And again, I'm a consultant now. I don't think I'm going to get fired or hired for this. Yeah, number 2 is live, and he's our first read. We're reading his release. And if he gets a free release, I guess the easiest way to say this, if number 2 is getting high walled, it's created the one-on-one we're looking for.
Gotcha.
If they're cutting 1 through 2, now we have some options, right? So now number 2 can curl it up, number 2 can stay on the run. Then it gets into the whole world of, is it a quarter safety? Is it a palm safety? Is he way off the hash? Is he on the hash? If he's flying off the hash on the old cover 2 look, we're going to hit him on the post and the bender. So yeah, 2's live for us. And then we also get into the world of reading the backside safety, the weak side safety for rotation. Yeah. So we'll send 2 on a lock seam and leave him there. And if we get rotation, he's our first read instead of number 2. So when you start adding in components like that, I think that's what makes DC really dangerous.
Right. So this is one of the fascinating things about that world to me, about different guys. And I think, so initially you had everybody is just 7-man, full slide, play action protection. It starts to evolve a little bit. And you mentioned not liking to always do play action protection. Protection wise, did you live more? You like 11 personnel wide off. Were you check releasing guys? I know like the new, if you look at some of those college guys, kind of the next evolution is they actually started getting guys out as check releases where if they didn't have to. Now I've got legitimate check downs and I can create more triangles if I don't have deep choice. Where did you kind of settle protection wise in working through that stuff over the years?
We started in the 7-man world when we were 11 off, and we left everybody in, and we would give a little flash fake, put it in the belly and then go. But it really was a game plan thing. And that kind of goes back to what you and I were talking about before the show started. If somebody's bringing 4 weak, if somebody's bringing 4 strong, we've got to figure that out now before we get there. Is it going to be a situation where, Bryles calls it raft and slip or whatever? It's going to be a situation where he may have to check and go, the personnel guy, the off tight end. We always left our back in.
Gotcha. So from year to year, all right, one concern that high school guys always have about this is a lot of guys' experience is if you don't have a big arm quarterback and you don't have true speed on the outside, like a legitimate advantage in winning a one-on-one, that you kind of have to get away from that stuff. Did you feel like there were things you could do to supplement it, or did you just have other things in your system? Like you talked about your different Kiffin 3 levels and the quick game. Did you just have other stuff from year to year in your toolbox that you could go, you know what, we're just going to, with our quarterback this year or our receivers this year, we're going to emphasize this stuff? Or did you just have ways to adapt DC and be able to run it with lesser talent?
It's pretty hard to run with lesser talent. It's not really hard to run with lesser talent at quarterback. It's more hard to run with less talent on the edge, in my opinion. Quarterback's arms are just what quarterback's arms are. So we started saying, okay, if we're really good on the outside, let's live in DC. Let's live in the double post. Let's live in the doubles world. Let's live in the dagger world. If we're really good on the interior and we're not as good on the outside, and you can't nail it extensively like you want to. Because, there's times where you'll go to 12 personnel and you'll have 2 outside receivers on the field, even though one of them's the slot.
Yeah.
Or there's times you'll go 12 personnel and you'll put 2 slots on the field. But if we're just talking true 11 personnel, 2 outsides and 1 inside, or 10 with 2 and 2, if we were just better on the interior, then we got more into the slot choice world where it was the seam reads and the Y crosses, the options, spin off of Bryles' word, where you could kind of incorporate both. A lot of poco looks, just trying to single out somebody. From year to year, it wasn't necessarily the quarterback that was the driver for us. It was, we always started outside. How good are we on the outside? How good are we on the inside? If we're good at both, now it opens up a whole different world. But it always started on the outside for us.
Yeah, I think that's a great way philosophically to kind of look at it and to just have that plan from year to year and looking at your talent with the inability to recruit at the high school level, and you get this guy this year and then you don't have this guy, or at least the inability to recruit for some teams. But being able to look at it that way, I think that's a great way, especially if you're a young OC, to be like, all right, I've got to have this package that enables us to showcase a slot, enables us to showcase an outside guy, and then whatever we have, that's who we build it off of. I think that's really good. You guys, talk to me about your double post game. You were talking about the outside receivers, like kind of how, like, obviously I just want to kind of know like how you set it up, but also do you feel like some people feel like with DCs, they don't need double post as much, that they get something very similar when it reads out a certain way? What was the need for you guys to have double post in there?
So the way double post kind of came about with us, and you can absolutely get double post out of DC if you just really, look at it. But the way that it kind of transitioned for us, and it came from DC. So people that may be or may not be familiar with the Bryles world, the Brambo route, he does not want number 1 crossing the hash. So it's not a true post. It's more of a skinny, however you want to look at it on that. So that's kind of how we transition the world into the double post. So now we would take number 2. He's on a true cross country post. So if we're in the middle of the field, he's trying to get to the other hash. And now number 1 has a lot more room to work. And now number 1 can cross the hash, and we're looking to splash that thing down at the hash, if we're in the middle of the field, at the hash, or more towards center field.
Got you. It's a more defined landmark really sometimes than DC ends up being, but you're actually hitting different attack points on the field. You can possibly impact somebody else. What did you do on the backside of it? There's so many things people do. Was, since you already got the cross country coming from 2, were you doing something on the backside just to hold the corner or weak safety, or were you bringing him more shallow? What were you doing with the guy on the other side? side?
There would be times if we were in 11, sometimes it would almost look like Yankee, to be honest with you. If you're in the 2x2 world and you really got to hold the backside guy as long as they're not poaching, or if you're in 11, the guy's not poaching, we can send him on the old wave spear route that Arc does and things like that. So it was a game plan thing for us as to how we set it up and how we did it. And there wasn't a true camp rule for what the backside was. We just paired it with different things. But once we got into game plan settings, and it was usually double post for us was almost always a play action shot.
Gotcha.
And that was another way that, and of course, everybody that knows DC, it's a shot play, but it's also not a shot play. When we called double post, we knew we were getting the shot. So it was almost always some kind of guard pull protection, some kind of heavy gap look, and then we're really trying to push the ball downfield. So we knew that we were getting the ball downfield with that one.
You were talking about the play action shot component. I know for a lot of guys that are more in that kind of fast and wide world, their run game is mostly really heavy A gap and really B2B is there's nothing outside the tackle. But I know you are a huge wide zone guy, which is a lot of people would say is the best run in football. We get in all these arguments. I'm a big wide zone, mid zone guy, which is a little unusual for more of that system. Did you set up a lot of your play action off that, or was it more guard pull play action?
We did. And what was funny was we kind of settled on, so we would go wide zone look, we'll post, obviously, but then we would also go wide zone look, and we would always have some kind of throwback screen set up off of it. We're trying to layer play calls. So you've got the double post look, you got the wide zone run, and then you got some kind of throwback screen off of it. Kind of held some of the backside pursuit if, once people started seeing it, and then you started adding motion with it, which we tried to go really fast. Motion was very, very, very limited in our schemes.
Yeah, just because of the tempo. That's really good. The lane, that's so good about layering play calls, working with people about on installs, and everybody wants to know about install. What do I do? And do I do 3-day? And do I do 4-day? I think, especially if you're young, you're trying to figure out your scheme. One of the best things you can do is, okay, this install one, everything's going to look alike. I'm going to hit all the different levels of the play sheet. It's basically like I have a little mini offense for these days. And I think that really helps you as a play caller if you do stuff like that, especially if you're trying to figure out who you are and what your identity is. That's a great point of layering all that stuff on. Really, really like that.
Couldn't agree more. We were always, and through the install phase, we were always some kind of quick, and we're all looking the same now. Some kind of quick, some kind of drop back, some kind of screen, some kind of run, some kind of trick. And just like you talked about, but it was always the same. So that's kind of where we came from in that world.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Great stuff. So with Dagger, so you got double post, you got DC, which we've already talked about. You did a great job of mentioning. Like, people think, oh, we're just throwing bombs. I mean, you talk to any guy that's running DCs and you're going to throw more stops than deep balls a lot of times. And people are eventually going to back up. You're going to throw stops constantly. So now you got your design shot. Where does Dagger fit in with you? Because I know you guys ran Dagger a lot as well.
We started getting a lot of inside leverage from corners. And they were just sink. And then the safeties kind of be able to, it's almost the old stress looking coverage from Cody, but it's a lot of inside leverage from on number one. And then the safeties kind of midpoint and 2, and then they're kind of high wall in there. So we said, okay, that whole shot throw is going to be pretty difficult at this point. Even if we do get the vertical off, and if we don't, we got to come back down the stem. We're still kind of in trouble right now, the way that kid's playing. Dagger for us is more of a hunt route. So we are speed off the ball. And that's another thing I think that people really need to understand when they talk about the DC world or anything like that. Speed off the ball is number one. And then, of course, chasing the landmarks or whatever you want to say on the corner, and then getting where you got to get to, stacking the defender. But speed off the ball is so pertinent to us. So we're just heavy speed off the ball. And then when we come out of our break, it could almost look like a curl. He could almost cross the hash. Once we get out of our break, we're really eyeballing the whole defender to find out where he's at. We're just trying to find a soft window right there, knowing the safety's gone. Just trying to find those holes. We're trying to get him at 10. We're trying to get him extremely flat. Don't round that thing off. And what we always told our guys was, when you sink your hips at the break, immediately snap your head to the hole player. We've got to know that you beat the corner. We've got to know that you killed his cushion. And now immediately snap your head to the hole player and find him, find out where he's going. Is he trying to cut one? Is he trying to high wall? Whatever we're trying to do. So again, it could turn into just simply wrapping the corner and finding that window. So Dagger was not a specific landmark for us.
Gotcha. I think that a lot of people, that's underused in my opinion for the guys that are fast and wide. It's such a good compliment to the things people do to try and eliminate DCs. And I don't think I see enough people run that. I think it's really good. Big question. Everybody, there's so many difference of opinions on this. What do you do with number 2? Are you hey, he's running through inside shoulder of the safety as fast as he can go? If there's a single high safety, is he stemming him, or is he just staying up the hash? Like, there's a million things you can do. Well, how are you coaching the number 2 guy?
Well, the first thing we're doing is we're trying to find wherever the hole player is, and we're trying to attack his inside shoulder if he's head up. If he's playing outside, we're still trying to run his inside shoulder. And I think it pairs really well with slot choice or the occupy, because you're trying to go through the outside shoulder at that point. On dagger, we're trying to go through the inside shoulder if he's got head up alignment or outside alignment. If he's got inside alignment, we're trying to push. We're almost spraying our release to his outside shoulder to try to hold him as much as possible. And then we're as vertical as fast as we can straight through the safety's face. If it's a one high safety, we're going to almost bend that thing. It's almost going to look like a post. I've seen people run a post for number 2 out of dagger. I was never a big fan of that. But yeah, if there's a one high guy, we're trying to get through his field of vision.
Got you. On the backside, what do you do?
You hate to say the hangout route, but
that's a yes.
You don't want to be it's all hitch, and it can be something if you're getting weak side pressure, you can set that up from week to week. It can be 2-man snag, anything like that. What we love to do is we love to run dagger out of the boundary back to the field. So we'd hide the alignment out of 1 and 2, and we could condense 1 and 2, and now you can send either or on a shallow and either or on a vertical.
That's really good. Hey, and you know what? If you got to put hitches on the backside, don't feel bad about it. As a famous coach once said, everybody's needs a rest sometimes. So if you run hitches, it's a little bit of a rest, and you still got purposes that we can give in the clinics and talk through, because some guys get really upset about the hangout routes in the system. But, it's a part of the deal. So that's really good stuff.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
I know I've heard you say stuff about it before. I know you do something unique with White Cross. I remember a long time ago you talking about, this goes back a couple years, I'm talking about a White Cross, you were going to do something new where you were going to have like a seam or a slot fade to the field, and you had kind of a fin route. Let's talk White Cross for a minute, because pretty much everybody has their own unique spin on it, and it's changing a lot. I think what you do is pretty cool. So what were you doing with White Cross that was unique or different?
And it kind of came from that whole dagger world. We started having to dress up dagger so much with exit motions, cheated motions, switch releases, everything under the sun. Because again, we would take what we did and figure out what we did. And we were going to do what we did. And we're probably not going to deviate very far from it. But if we can give it different looks with bunches and condensed looks, whatever. And then we fall back off in the White Cross world. And I said, okay, I had a really good slot receiver at this time. And I said, let's figure out a way to really pressure the entire field with this thing and still make the picture kind of clear for our quarterback. So what we started doing, and again, say we're in the middle of the field and say we're in trips, right? Okay. The backside single, and everybody calls him something different. He was our X. He never moved. He was always the X. He was on the left. He was going to run a wind post. So he's going to stem inside. He's going to get vertical up the hash. Then he's going to try to win across the safety's face. And we would take our F, and he would be on flat control to the single. Whereas most people run the flat control most people run the F wherever the cross came from. And he's flat control for the curl flat. So he would be flat control there. Number 3 would be on the crosser, and it's more of a deeper looking cross, almost like a Dover, I guess you would call it. Number 2 is on the slot fade, and then number 1, he is on a delayed fin, and we did the same thing, slot choice. So number 1, more of a wide release fin, and he actually stops his feet, and then he breaks back across. So what we're trying to do is kind of get some of that pull and get him back under him. But what we started telling our quarterbacks were, okay, all right, think about what we do with slot choice. Okay, so essentially you've got slot choice to the trip side. Cross is also live. And what we would say was, okay, if they're in too high and the number 2 tube is cap, we know we are working the weak side flood is what it amounted to. Dub's charger look. And now we're just reading the weak side safety. If the weak side safety bites on the cross, we're throwing the wind post over his head. If the weak side safety pedals out with the post, we're working cross to flat. And it was really good for us.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when you're getting a single high or a man look, that's taking you to the slot fin side?
Automatically.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. And really, the delayed fin even becomes kind of an extra check down on the backside. It's got so many cool components to it. So instead of traditional White Cross, you're talking about being more of an over. So you're really, truly building a 3-level flood to the weak side, more Kiffin style, where you've got this over route you're not really 3 in, go up to 12, snap it off. Like you're really working to a sort of an intermediate landmark with that cross.
Yes. We're trying to get, and we always said, get to 22 to the other hash. He's never going to get there. We do tell him to get flat at about 12 yards, but then keep on the high angle, getting out of there. Don't stay flat. Keep gaining as much angle as you can to open up that window.
That's really good. And I think that's a great route that guys can use, very multiple, carry it into every game. I think it's cool. You also do something cool when you're 2x2. How does it change when you're 2x2? Because I know you incorporate a shallow, and a lot of people are going to think that's awesome.
Yeah, we lost now you are going to lose the slot fake component out of this, but it's the same thing. So nothing changes. So if we're in 2x2 now, and we'll just call the outside receiver L1, and we'll just come back across the board. So now L1 is still on the win post, and we're working back to the left. L1 is on the win post. L2 is on the shallow. The F is still on flat control to the left. Number 2 still has the Dover, and now number 1 is still going to work that fin. We're not really going to pressure him. We can tag him on the post if we need to, but that's, in my opinion, you're starting to get into the progression world, which we don't want to get into. And so we know from 2x2, we're absolutely working the weak side. We know that. And got a lot of miles off that. And really what started happening, the inside linebacker started sucking down so hard on the shallows, it's really opening up the window for the Dover.
Yeah, that's the great thing about doing that for people that haven't done it. It's just people got so aggressive with shallows with their linebackers that you're just opening up stuff behind you. That's really good. Man, if people can't take anything from this, I don't know what they're doing, because there's a lot of great stuff. This is probably the part I'm most excited about. All right, you're a quarterback guy. You're into rotational mechanics. I was talking to you earlier. I really feel like we've hit this point. First of all, quarterback coaching is better than it's ever been from a mechanic standpoint. And there's been kind of a complete just sea change in 10 years in the way people teach. But what my kind of fear for a lot of high school guys, and I'm not immune from this either, is that it gets to this point where if you're not spending the summer with Tom House, you don't feel like you can even coach mechanics anymore. And trainers, there are really good trainers. There are really bad trainers. If you get a good one, they can be phenomenal for your program because you've got other things to worry about as an OC, but it still is good, especially in the off season, for us to have some knowledge about this stuff. So if we don't live near you and can't just send them to you, Josh, talk through us how you got into this, and let's just have a discussion about it, because I think it's going to fascinate you.
You and I touched on Will Hewlett being on the show beforehand, and I think he is absolutely fantastic. And I made a promise to myself that I was going to do 3 things. One, I'm never going to step on coach's toes. That was always one of my biggest pet peeves, when kids would go to anywhere to a trainer, and there's only so much headspace for a child anyway. And he's like, well, my trainer's telling me that I should be on a 5-step drop right here, or my trainer's telling me this. I made a promise to myself that I'm not getting in the way of coaches. I made a promise to myself that I would get out of the way of kids as soon as we were done. I want to give them the foundations and give them the checkpoints that they can do on their own, at home, with their dad, with anybody else, and they can work on themselves. This is not a constant thing where you're coming to me 100 times a year. If you want to shoot me a video, hey, that's great. But I hope that when you leave after our little 6-session deal, that you got everything you need and you go play football and you're a great quarterback. And then the third thing was, I always wanted to make sure that the parents knew that we had a plan. We had a set out outline deal where this is what you're going to do in session 1. This is what you're going to do in session 2. This is what you're going to do in session 3. This is what you're going to do in 4, 5, 6. So that there's a plan. You're not just sending your children to somebody to run through bags and throw a football into a net and wasting money. So made myself that promise, and then here we are.
What if I'm a brand new quarterback coach? I just got hired. I'm out of college. And my OC tells me, all right, you've got 10 minutes of Indy, and you're going to have this 10 minutes. You're going to have it these 3 days of practice. This is what you're going to do. What are the things I need to be doing with that kid? What do I need to start with besides doing a whole bunch of research and do? But if legitimately you could talk to this guy and you say, listen, dude, here's what you need to do. What are the focus points that we need as quarterback coaches?
Yeah. So we talk about 4 things, right? So we talk about weight distribution, we talk about rotation, we talk about deceleration, and we talk about extension. And I think if you follow those 4 things, you can find any flaw in any quarterback and how they do it. Okay. So just from the most simplified aspect to tell you this, first thing you got to do with your lead foot is you got to clear your hip so that you're able to turn, right? Anybody, you can't take your feet, put them together and turn. So that lead foot's got to clear the drive hip. Your weight needs to stay in your back foot. You need to stay stacked over your back hip. So if you do any of that, you're good on the bottom half now. Okay. The rotation standpoint comes from, and anybody can look this up, look up hip shoulder dissociation.
Right.
A million drills out there. Old Jameis Winston clip of him running around and Dak Prescott doing that. That's what hip dissociation is. So if you get the base and the hip dissociation, now you're trying to learn how to rotate. We talk about some arm lag and things like that. We don't want arm drag. But at the end of the day, the hope is that your throwing elbow is even with your shoulder as you're rotating. So you want your base good. I got all my weight back. I'm rotating hard on my back foot. Got a really firm front side. And by the way, If you will research MLB hitters or just watch MLB hitters, it's the same motion. Golfing, it's the same motion. Everybody's on a firm front side. Everybody's rotating on the back hip. There's some form of hip shoulder dissociation. We're coming through with that drive elbow, which is our throwing elbow height, and we're trying to get extension, which means we want the ball away from our face. I'm not saying you're throwing sidearm, but I am saying you're creating a longer lever, and we're just trying to rotate there. And then once you get to the deceleration phase, you stop with both shoulders facing your target. Do not continue rotating, and your body creates an automatic whip for it. And that would be me 10 minutes a day.
Got you. You're working with all these kids. What's the really, really common things that you're seeing high school kids deal with? And obviously, there's younger kids who are going to have some of the same issues and maybe different ones. But what are the things that you're seeing that, like, we as quarterback coaches need to be aware of? That, like, look, this is a very common problem that a lot of kids have that we need to work.
I think one of the biggest problems that I have seen so far, the two things that I have to work, well, I'll say the three things that I have to work hardest on with kids too. And it's hard to break habits. It is. Now, that's not something that's easy, but it's going to be your lead hand. That would be the first one. The old adage is it needs to be at your nose, no further than your nose, no further than the sternum. You want to be able to eat a cheeseburger or tell somebody a story out of a microphone with that lead hand. Don't let that elbow drive you out of the way. It's just very relaxed and you're just kind of rotating around your lead hand. The lead elbow plays no part in the throwing motion. And I think a lot of people get that wrong when they're trying to jerk down with a lead elbow or pull really hard with a lead elbow. It has nothing to do with it. That would be one. Two, a lot of kids go so forward when they throw. And that's a baseball thing, and that's fine, because if you field a ball in center field and you're trying to throw somebody at home, your momentum's going forward, you're going to go forward. If you're catching a ball or you're pitching and you're coming off the mound, you are going to go forward. Now, the difference is, and I'm a baseball guy and I love baseball, but the difference is those guys are throwing to stationary targets. We are not. Those guys are throwing to stationary targets. Also, nobody's trying to kill them. So
very different. Yeah.
We've got to be on a platform to be able to make different angled throws with our arm while our base and our shoulders and our hips look the same. So we let the arm redirect everything. So that would be another thing, staying on that back foot, rotating really hard. And then the other thing, the last thing that I see so much of is the extension phase. I've seen clips of kids against the wall, like throwing against a wall and not letting their arm actually extend and be natural and get out there and create that whip. And the adage I always tell the kids, hey, have you ever seen the incredible flailing arm man that's at tire shops everywhere? That's how your arm should be. It shouldn't be locked and constricted. Get that thing out there and let it go. If you can teach the extension phase and you can teach that weight distribution, you're in good shape.
I think because before it really, the information just even got out there that quarterbacks are rotational athletes and the similarities in baseball hitters and golfers. I mean, literally, like 10 years ago, there were things that were completely wrong that we were all taught that became just part of this is what you do. So it was taught to this quarterback who then became a coach who then taught it to his quarterbacks. And it's hard to break some of that stuff. I mean, it's been hard for me. I know if you're not like up on stuff and researching, you can kind of get passed by. And that's why it's important to have some idea of the science behind all this stuff. This is great stuff you're throwing out. What do you do now? It used to be you go to a quarterback trainer and a ton of what they talk about, okay, it's all feet. And now it's not. I mean, it's not all feet. Footwork wise, how beneficial do you think it is for a trainer to work on drops, 3-step drops, open shuffle, all the different things? Or is it really that's something that's so tied into your offensive scheme that let's really stick to things like rotational mechanics with a trainer?
So we don't even talk about drops until our fourth session. So we are 4 straight hours of throwing the football. We're not throwing routes. We are strictly just throwing the football. And we're going through drills and things like that, throwing drills. But it's so tied. Drops are so tied to whatever you do. I mean, somebody could be in the pedal drop, the Phil Longo drop, and that can be something for teams. And then some teams can be under center 5-step guys, 7-step guys. Some guys show no drop whatsoever. They just flash and they stand straight up in the pocket. So we talk drops very, very mentally. I don't think there's a place for bags in quarterback play because, I mean, how many times is your quarterback going to shuffle backwards, shuffle forwards, elude a sack, shuffle backwards, elude a sack? So I don't see the place for that. I think you get in a good platform. I think you get in a good athletic base. And obviously, your internal clock's got to go off at some point, and you just got to go be an athlete. For us and for me, and this is what I teach the guys, we teach drops literally in about 2 minutes. If your rear ankle is facing your target, you're good. That's all I'm concerned with. So however you get there, that's how you get there. Now, it's going to be a little bit different if it's in a movement type deal or if it's an off-platform throw. But if we're talking strictly, I'm just throwing a football and I'm a righty, and the old thing always was, hey, look, if I'm throwing stick to the left, I'm a right-handed quarterback. They always wanted quarterbacks dropping straight back, and then they would swing open to the left. They would lose their side of vision. Why not just take your left foot and drop it back, cross over one time, plant your right foot, and throw the football? Just don't overcomplicate any of that.
Do you think with the incredible amount of off-platform work that is taking place with trainers, are there some rhythm throw components that are being lost in all that, where you look at success rates, the earlier in a progression or however you're reading it that the ball comes out, the higher the completion percentage, like there is still a place for rhythm. Do you think that that's kind of gets lost sometimes in the training while we do wild, do a 360 in the air, who's off platform?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. And again, we don't get into off platforms until the fourth or fifth session too. And that's very short lived. They've got to be able to do it. I'm not saying they don't. You got to be able to do it. There's just no way around that. But I think Dub really opened up a lot of guys' eyes when he threw the timeline down, when he started comparing drops to route space and route breaks. And I think that really opened a lot of people's eyes as to where you should be at the top of your drop. So to me, it's get yourself in a good platform, get open to the target, get that front foot down and get ready to go.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And I think having the trust, and I know some guys listen to this, a guy that's understands offense, has called plays as a ball coach that's working with mechanics and saying this stuff. I think that there's just parts of the profession, if you're talking to a guy who hasn't done that sort of thing, some guys just aren't going to listen. So I think it's really good to have you being in that space now and being able to talk through that stuff. Just great stuff. So I know it's the passing lab. I know I'm not trying to get fired, but I think I can slip this through. Keith, maybe he won't hear it. But I was in an argument the other day. I need you, because I know this is who you are. Why are gap schemes A-gap runs? I need you to give me something. Everybody, if you're a passing game guy and you have to close your ears. We got to talk about this real quick.
This is always my biggest pet peeve with gap scheme runs. And I love gap scheme runs, but what are you going to do when somebody squeezes you down and wrong arms you? Okay, well, the natural progression is log it, get outside of it, and let's go. And I was like, guys, we are losing so much freaking practice time teaching this log, teaching all this. And it's great. Now, don't get me wrong. If you can do it, do it. If you can teach it, by all means, do it. Now it extends your back's path, and now you're almost out there naked as a back. So why not have whoever your kick guy is take a negative angle and get back into the line of scrimmage as hard as he can and deny any kind of wrong shoulder. And if the back will keep it straight down the A-gap, I mean straight down Broadway, I don't care if they're logging. He can't go that far. You're not going that far. I could care less. So to me, if you keep every run in the A-gap, wide zone, the best runs happen in the A-gap when you catch the center. I mean, so you can defeat the log with your back's path, and that was just always my thing. If they want to wrong arm it, let them wrong arm it. I don't care. We're going to keep it right down Broadway, and if that backside linebacker flows over and you hit that thing back in the backside A-gap, you're in business.
It's good stuff. More people need to hear that. Watch people hit their head on the goalpost running right down the hash. That's good ball right there. Really good. Man, so much good stuff. We even hit run game, guys. So that's the first here on the Passing Lab. So we're coming to kind of the end, and we've got our question we have to ask you. So are you a hat guy, no hat guy, visor guy? What'd you wear on the sideline during the game or during the box?
I'm a hat guy. I never could pull off the hazard. I was always on the field, first of all. I can't call a game from the box. I've tried it, and I'm terrible at it. It's so bad. I mean, I can't do it. I have to be on the field, and I guess I have to get the feel for it. But not a visor guy. I have to be in a hat. I don't look good in a visor. Not that I look good in a hat, but I look really bad in a visor.
So everybody's favorite. What's your pregame or during game drink of choice? Are you a guy that has to get jacked up and juiced? Or are you a guy that needs to stay calm? Are you a health guy? Where are you at drink-wise?
I'm trying to be healthier now that I'm getting older. You may shun me for this, but I had a young coach on staff that he played football at Troy University, and he was just like all over the place at all times. I mean, he's just wired up gills at all times. On nothing, just wired up. He just loved life. Before we play one football game, I look up and I've got a Red Bull and a 5-hour energy sitting there, and it's his. And he's like, Coach, we got to do this. All right, whatever. So and he stayed with me most of my career, and we kind of developed a little relationship or a little tradition to where at 3:00, right before we would go to pregame, we would drink a Red Bull together and we would just talk. And then at 5 p.m., we would take a 5-hour energy. So probably getting ready for that 10 p.m. crash.
There are many people who join you in that. Trust me. I've been on the staffs where there's an ice box with everybody's drink of choice, and then there's the 5-hour energy, and there's all the other things. So hey, you're not alone. This is no judgment zone when it comes to pregame drink of choice. Unless we're doing something we're not allowed to do that violates the code of ethics as educators, but we will talk about that all. Really good, man. Loved having you on. It's good stuff. You guys contact Josh about your quarterback training needs and consulting. He does some really good stuff. Talk to people about where they can get in touch with you.
I'm on Twitter at, I think it's JThack1. I'm also on Facebook. You can always see me and my kids on there playing around. My email is jthacker@DAC, the number 8, the letter A.com. So that's jthacker@stack8a.com. And if I can ever help anybody, I always love talking ball. So don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, man. A really, really awesome job. I've got a ton of stuff from this, and I know people will as well. Really appreciate you being on, and look forward to continuing to talk with you. And hopefully you'll keep making a difference in the mechanic space for quarterbacks and throughout the Southeast, man.
I enjoyed it, brother. Thank you so much.
Coach, great conversation with Coach Thacker. What are your takeaways from this one?
Yeah, so much good stuff. One of the things that you kind of have to, there's so much stuff that comes fast and you got to write the stuff down. His rules in dealing as a quarterback trainer with parents, I kind of looked at it as, okay, how as an offense coordinator and a quarterback coach, am I going to take some of those same things? He talked about not stepping on coach's toes and getting out of the way, having a plan, allowing the kids to kind of follow the plan and get out of the way, and then making sure the parents know the plan. And I think as a trainer, yeah, that's great advice, but maybe we as coaches, we can take pieces of that as we're dealing with our athletes as well. I thought that was really good. He named the 4 things you're looking at if you're in quarterback Indy or you're in quarterback training, whichever space you're in, but weight distribution, rotation, deceleration, and extension. And of course, Josh went more in depth with that. But man, if you just kind of keep those things as this is what modern quarterback biomechanics are really about, that's really straightforward. And I think helps me think about, all right, are my drills and what we're working to put a product on the field, are they actually reflecting what these quarterbacks need? And so I thought that was great. And then just for you passing lab guys that just love scheme, the Y cross package you went over is really unique and really good. Everybody runs Y cross in their own way. I think his way is really unique, and that's something that a lot of people should look at.
Great job, great detail on this episode of the Passing Lab. Josh, thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again to Coach Herring for putting together the Passing Lab, an outstanding job every single week of the series. Remember to check out our partner, Modern Football Technology. Build smarter, coach clearer, and develop your quarterbacks rep by rep. Modern Football Technology, where quarterback development meets real data. Visit modernfootball.com to learn more. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com. We have a ton of articles and blogs there about all of our episodes and our coaches who appear on the podcast. Follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.